Talk a little bit about the criteria you look for in an agency to acquire. You mentioned $1 million of EBITDA. What else do you look for?
So there's a couple different elements, right? Like, the first is like, do they have a clear path of where they want to go, right? There's a lot of businesses that can be built by accident and then they hit a plateau. But do they know where they want to go? And most importantly, does their team know where they're going, right? Like, think about it. If the owner's on a boat and he's driving the ship, and he doesn't tell anybody else where the ship is going, right? Like, he has to do all the course corrections. He can never, go sleep, right? So we want to make sure we're buying a business that can operate without the owner. Because most of the time, right, the owner's been doing this for a long time. They're the worst employees ever.
So you're looking for a company with at least $1 million of EBITDA where the team understands the direction and the owner has a vision for how they're all going to get there and has shared that vision.
Exactly.
Just a couple follow-on questions. Why $1 million in EBITDA?
Well, I feel that we've seen anything under $1 million in EBITDA, their valuation is like they haven't really kind of crested that next level, right? I always looked at valuing an agency or a service-based business is really like anything under $1 million in EBITDA, you're around 1 to 2x.
Times EBITDA.
Times EBITDA, not times top line revenue. I think that's the biggest misconception, right? Like a lot of people think, hey, I'm $1 million business and I'm worth 5 million. I'm like, no, you're not, unless that was your profit. And then also too, you got to kind of factor in, if the owner's barely paying themselves, right? Like, well, we have to bring in a CEO, right? Like what we do at this agency is we want that business to run independently. We will support it, but we want them to keep running. Like, we don't want to change their name. We don't want to change their services. We don't want to change their staff, like, especially in the very beginning. And we want the owners to stay and have a sense of ownership, because they do, right? And so a lot of people come in, they change the name, they change everything, and then it's kind of the wild, wild west, right?
So you want to keep the business, it's successful, it's gotten to $1 million of EBITDA. You don't want to screw that up, right? So
no, not at all.
You're looking for $1 million in EBITDA. That makes sense. We'll talk about due diligence in a moment, but how do you on the front end, you mentioned that, does the owner have a vision and does their team know what they're doing and where they're going? How do you evaluate the team's knowledge of the owner's vision?
Well, I look at kind of the operations of the agency. Like, is the owner in sales? Is the owner doing marketing? Is the owner still in financing? Is the owner still in operations? Or are they talking to the employees, right? That will tell me if they can, operate without the owner. And then I'll flat out ask, what is your role? What do you do on a day-to-day basis? And if they say, like, what I'm looking for is kind of like 5 roles. And I kind of look for it as, in the very beginning, as you're building a business, you're kind of the owner, right? You're doing everything. And then when you can get to the agency CEO, it's different. So the first one we've already covered: set the vision, communicate it to the team. Second one is coach and mentor your leadership team only. If everyone's reporting to you, that's a telltale sign that you haven't created leaders in your company to help, and they don't know that direction, or you're holding them back. I also want them to be the face of the organization. I know when I had you on our podcast on the Smart Agency Masterclass, right? Like, we had a healthy debate. Like, I think they should be the face, and I think they still can sell. And I guess that fits more of our model too, because like we want them to keep operating, right? So that makes that right. I can see both sides. But I also want them building key relationships and understand the KPIs. And those are the
KPI
roles.
Stands for,
right.
What does KPI stand for?
Key performance indicators. Sorry, I'm talking tech jargon, which I always tell people.
No, it's
right?
good. I just want to make sure everybody's coming along with us for the ride. So cool. So you want them to understand their KPIs and their team's KPIs.
Exactly.
You mentioned there were 5 things, so I think we covered 3 or 4. Was there a fifth?
So set the vision, communicate it often, be the face of the organization, coach and mentor the leadership team, understand the financials, and build key relationships.
Got it. That's super helpful.
Yep.
What's a typical deal structure look like for you guys?
Yeah. So we'll come in and we'll do half cash. Okay. Because we're looking for people that want to build something bigger, but also take some chips off the table. And that's always nice, right? So you think about some of these businesses have been around for 5, 10, maybe 15 years, right? They're like, I want to put some more money in my pocket, but they should also be putting money in their pocket over the years too, right? If they're not paying themselves really well, that's a red flag.